Greetings hobbyists, this is Artisans of Vol, and in this video we're going to have a look at how we can repose flexible objects on an STL, for example tentacles or a tail. So in a previous video we had a look at how we can use the pose brush in Blender to repose limbs on STL models so you can have more variation in the models that you download. And that's great for things that have joints, but what about something that's a bit more flexible, for example a tail or maybe a tentacle or something like that. So I've been onto Thingiverse and found this great series of files. It's from Little Fox 3D Printing and it's got loads of different dinosaurs and other ancient animals on it. And I thought it'd be fun to have a look at how we can repose something like this Spinosaurus or whatever model that's got a tail on it. Now, importantly, this coming from Thingiverse means that it has got a Creative Commons license, which means you're free to remodel and remix and repose things as much as you want from files from Thingiverse, as opposed to certain other files online where it's best to check what permissions you've got with it. But regardless, full credit for this work to Little Fox 3D Printing. And these are some really nice middle to low resolution files that you can print and add to as much as you want. So we're going to go through this and I will repeat some of the things that were in the previous tutorial, but I'll go through them quite quickly. So if I go through anything too fast, the link is in the description for that. So let's just delete out this cube. Now importantly, I'm going to go through everything as clearly as I can so that if you haven't really used Blender before, you can use this fairly easily. So we're going to find our files, having downloaded them. I've extracted these already. Go to Files and then we're going to bring in our Spinosaurus. Let's just select that and drag that in, and then we're going to click our Import STL, and we've got this here. We're going to have to zoom out a bit. Now if you get to the point where you can't see this, that's because your view is set to have a limit on it. It's to make sure that Blender doesn't slow down too much if you've got a lot in your scene. If you just press N, go to View, and you change this end by effectively just adding on an extra 0, it means you can now zoom out a lot further. So that'd be the first thing to do. Next, we're going to rotate this so it's up the right way. So I'm going to click on it, go to my X direction. I'm just going to press R. We can rotate that by I, or we can type in 90. And in this instance, I need to put a minus, and then it will be the correct way up. So we've got our Spinosaurus here, and we can start looking at reposing this tail. Now, to get the best results of this, as before, we're going to create some Facesets. Now, if we just go into sculpt mode up here, and then drag our brushes out, we're going to do exactly the same thing where we could either draw on our Facesets by doing that, and then we could draw on the next Faceset, and so on. So that's relatively easy to do, and that will get our different sections. And we've got that, though we're going to have to be careful that we go through the other side. And just some reminders, if you hold down Control while you have your mouse over one of the colors, it will carry on drawing that color. So we could do this quite easily, hit down Control there, and then add these on. So this is going to work quite nicely, and we can get this easily sectioned off in the way that we want. So that's the first way of doing this, and that works very nicely. And in this instance, I'd probably say that's the best choice for this file. The other thing, if we clear this, I'm going to go to Facesets, Facesets from Visible, that will get rid of everything, is we could come into a side view, scroll down to Box Facesets, and we can go into X-ray mode and just select something like that. And then actually we could do that again here, and then so on. And that's a nice easy way of doing this and breaking this up. I'll just get rid of that again. The other way we can do this is if we come into edit mode, and then I'm going to use machine tools. You could come up here to get to edge mode. I can also do it with machine tools to get to edge mode here. If we just click and control click around, we can also create very quickly and easily some Facesets. If I just press Control and E and then mark seam, and then come down a bit further, do exactly the same thing, mark seam, and then when I go into sculpt mode, which I can do here, we can go to Facesets, initialize Facesets from UV seams, and that will set that up there. Now in this video I just want to cover one other way which we didn't cover in the last video because it's more usable in this situation. So I'm just going to once again clear the Facesets, so Facesets from Visible, and because we've got these quite nice clear edges, I'm actually going to Control and E, and then I'm going to clear those seams so you can get rid of your seams if you want to start again. Because we've got these nice triangulated circles each time here going around, so there, and so on, and then at the end we've got a single point, though this could mess it up because it's ruining the geometry slightly, so we'll fix this quickly. I'm just going to go here and press Ctrl and X to dissolve that edge, and then I'm going to go to vertex mode. I can either do that here and go to vertex, or come up here to the top left and then click here, shift click there and press J to make this nice and rounded. That's quite important for this to be at its best. What I can now do is actually select upwards on this tail. Now this is really useful if you've got very long objects, or if your object is already curved round. This one's relatively straight, so using the box select was very easy. This could be difficult if this was already curving a lot, maybe a bit more exaggerated than we had here. So what I'm going to do is come into my sculpt mode. Again, we could do that up here. And I'm going to come down to the mask brush. Now the mask brush allows you to draw on a mask. In a similar way you can draw on your Facesets. I want to Ctrl and Z to undo that. There is a secret to this mask brush, and that is that if you notice, each time I put my mouse anywhere, it puts a white dot on the vertex that I'm currently over. And if I bring that to the end where we've got that vertex on the tip, I can start selecting this in a different way. If I press Shift and A, you'll notice it starts going as I move down. Now this isn't perfect, and if you, just because of the way it's selecting, if you hit 3, it's probably going to come a little bit better, but it does depend on your object. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, go to my tip there, Shift A, start dragging along, hit 3, and drag up to about there, and we've got that section. Now this isn't perfectly round, I might not perfectly select on the tip, so let's undo that mask, which is Alt and M, and then come to my tip again. So let's just go over here and make sure that's perfectly on that tip, and then Shift and A, drag up, press 3, there we go, that's much better, and we can drag to there and then click. You can see how well that has gone along this object. From there, I can just go into Facesets and then Faceset from masked. And now we've added in a Faceset. I can then press Alt and M to undo the mask and do exactly the same thing again. So I'm going to come to that tip, Shift and A, drag up, 3 to make it more smoothed off, and I'm going to divide this into sections each time, setting the mask from what I've selected, and then Alt and M to undo it. So I'm just going to speed up as I do that for the rest of this tail, but as I said, a really handy way of being able to select a section of something like a curved tentacle or tail, where using the other options isn't as easy. Now these don't have to be perfectly the same size, though the better they are in terms of sizing, or the more equal they are in terms of sizing, the better, though sometimes it's a little bit better to have smaller Facesets towards the tip. Either way, this is going to work. So, at this point, we're going to use exactly the same tool that we did on our first video, which is we're going to go to the pose brush, I'm going to press N and go to tool so that I have my options for these settings. And just as before, we don't want to have this rotating across the topology, we want to do it by Facesets. And now it will recognize each Faceset and try and do it from the point before. We want to change our IK or our pose IK segments here to encompass all of the segments we've got. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to put that up to 6. Now when I go to the end, it's going to allow me to pose those. Now if I start trying to pose here, so I just click and drag, it's going to do an okay job on this. But we can make it much smoother by upping up our smooth iterations. So I'm going to put that up to, let's say, 10. And now when I do it, it is going to do a better job of smoothing everything and giving a much nice, perfect curve, allowing me to repose that tail really easily. I will say it doesn't always pose back nicely. Again, you can see how flat that's gone there, though it doesn't help that I did that very quickly, so I'd often go back to my beginning point and then repose from there. So this gives us a really quick option of reposing these tails or tentacles. Now you will notice as part of this, it has slightly flattened this and twisted it around a little bit. So I just wanted to spend a second talking about how we would fix that using one other of these sculpt brushes. So what I'm going to do is Facesets and Facesets from visible, and you can see we've got this slight flattening here And what I'd recommend to use is the Inflate Brush. And this simply tries to inflate everything out, the clues in the name, kind of like a balloon. Now I'm just going to press F to up my brush size a little bit, and then anywhere I drag along is going to be inflated up, and you can see how that's working to inflate this tail. Now if you ever go too far, you can hold down Control and click back, and it's going to do the opposite, or thin it down. That went a bit too far, so let's go to about there. And then anywhere where we've flattened this out, for example just there, we can just use a mix of using the brush and then the Control and clicking to round that back out again. And that's looking much better. Now if at any point you're finding something that's not smooth, you can hold down the Shift button and click on any brush, and it will help smooth things out. But do be careful, if you do that from too far away, it's going to go far too extreme. I'm just going to undo that. So be careful with the Shift, which is effectively just using this smooth brush, but you can use it at any point. So there we go, we've reposed our tail. So hopefully that gives another play on the same tool. It was something that was requested by a viewer, and I thought it would be a really good one to cover, that we can very easily repose these flowing forms just by going to the pose brush and upping your smooth iterations. So hopefully that's a helpful addition. Have a great day, guys.